Hey, what's going on, y'all? This is Pastor B. When is the last time you asked yourself, why do I do what I do? Do I do it because I love God? Do I do it because I love money? Do I do it because I love for people to tell me how wonderful I am? Whenever we get in ministry and whenever we do life, a lot of times we have shallow expectations of our actions, right? We only want to do it for reasons and things that we really, really shouldn't. So today we're going to talk about how we should redirect our focus and do everything for the glory of God, because it's all about Him anyway. All right. So we're going to jump right into the episode. Thank y'all so much for tuning, and here we go. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Living from Sunday to Sunday podcast. I'm your host, Pastor B. Thank you so much for listening and watching today's episode. I believe that this is going to be the best 15 minutes of your day because real change happens 15 minutes at a time. So I was listening today to an album that I hadn't really listened to in a while. William McDowell's album, Sounds of Revival album. And one of my favorite songs from that album is it's called When You Walk Into the Room. And if you are familiar with any of his music, um, William McDowell has a way of creating a personal worship experience, like right where you are, right? Like you don't have to go to church, you don't have to be around anyone else. His music is so personal that it can be a soundtrack of your heart as like the perfectly worded lyric or verse um, that you want to communicate to God, right? And so in this song, um, part of the chorus just kind of stuck in my head. It says that we love you, will never stop, can't live without you, Jesus. We love you, we can't get enough. And all this is for you, Jesus. And so I was thinking about those lyrics and just kind of like turning them over in my mind. And I begin to ask myself, why do you do what you do? Why do you preach? Why do you teach? Why do you study? Why do you sing? Why do you minister? Why do you do the things that you do? And, you know, if I'm honest with myself, that's always kind of been an issue for me. I remember I've been singing in church since I was 14, maybe 15. We're talking 20 plus years, right? And I remember the first time I ever got paid. Um, I might have been 21, 22. And small church, very small membership. Um, and I remember getting a $25 check for leading worship and being like the minister of music. And that $25, there was so much pride in me taking that $25 because I felt like I deserved the $25. Technically, I felt like I deserved more, but I felt like somebody was seeing my worth for the first time. And what that did is that put a small seed of pride in me. Whereas moving forward, what I did wasn't necessarily for the Lord's approval, but it was so that I could get paid. And from that moment, even into now, and now I do way more and don't get and don't get paid, right? But I remember thinking back on that moment, and I'm like, Lord, when did I ever when did I lose my way to where what I do when I serve you, am I doing it because I love you? Or am I doing it out of obligation? Am I doing it out of tradition and routine? Right. Again, I've been in church since I was 5. Right. So the business of church, I'm very very familiar with. But am I doing it for the right reasons? Right. Um, and you know, all of this, all of the time, all of the effort, all of the frustration, all of the disappointment, all of the highs and lows of ministry. I think it's easy to get burned out. It's easier to get burned out, let me say this, when you're doing it for the wrong motive and you're doing it for the wrong reason. Um, because if you're doing it because you love God and you love Him above everything else, then you'll develop a relationship with God and you'll understand that there were certain things that Jesus endured because of his love. He had the ability to change the negative situation. He had the power to bring judgment upon those who ridiculed him, who spat in his face, who um, beat him, who struck him, who formed crowns of thorns and placed them on his head. He had more than enough power to make the situation beneficial to him. But yet, he endured all of these different trials, setbacks, circumstances because he loved us. And many times, I think we lose our way, both intentionally and unintentionally, when we forget about the love. Um, who do I do this for? That I had to ask myself the question as well. Like, who am I doing this for? Am I doing this for people to tell me that I'm wonderful? Am I doing it for the personal, the feeling that I get when someone tells me I'm wonderful, for the affirmation or the affection of man? Is that why we do what we do? Because we know that is fleeting. That stuff don't last at all. And because it doesn't last that long, sometimes we get into the habit of chasing the high of affection. And we get into the habit of going above and beyond, going outside of our character, just so that we just so that we can feel the approval of man. We'll do things that we would never normally do just so that we can relive that. That's a lot of times why we we celebrate our former victory so much, because we remember the high of those moments. We remember the applause. We remember the praise. We remember those statements that people have made telling us that we're wonderful. And we want to hold on to those things. But yet, in doing so, we've forgotten why we do what we do. And we should do that because of the love of God, because He has graced us. He's been so good to us, right? And He's afforded us an opportunity to use His gifts through us for His people. Everything that God gives us, every talent, every ability, it's not really for us. Yes, there are some benefits to it. There's some tangible benefits, right? But it shouldn't be about the tangible. It should always be about the intangible. It should always be about the love and the pleasing of God. Am I really pleasing God in the way that I live? Are you really pleasing God in how you interact with one another? Whenever you are presented with the opportunity to serve, presented with the opportunity to lead, presented with the opportunity to share your wisdom and your knowledge to others, what is your motivating factor? Right? Because can we honestly say that everything that we do for God is for Him? Right? Um, there's a scripture that is currently um, outside of my mind's grasp right now, but yeah, we should do everything heartily as unto the Lord. And I remember hearing that scripture growing up, and there was one word that's the most important part of that word, and I would just shrug it off. And that word is everything. We should do everything unto the glory of God, not just the things in church, not just the things that are publicly seen, but our private life. We should do that to the glory of God because it's not like He don't know. It's not like He doesn't see. It's not like He is blind and oblivious to what's done in the dark, right? So this is a heart check. This is an examination of our motive. Because here's the other thing that I've learned in my life, that we can have great intentions and great motives in our mind, but if our hearts are not right, then those intentions are never fully realized. We never really um, complete the task that we intended to complete because our heart will always drift us away from what we should do. It'll always drift us toward what we want, and it'll always drift us toward what our flesh desires. And so, since we're always in that tug of war of what the spirit has called us to do versus what our flesh wants to do, it's very, very important that we remember our why. My wife, she has a nonprofit entitled Determined to Be a Better Me. And one thing she always returns to every single time is, Brian, I got to remember my why. Why did I start this? Why did I begin this journey? Why did I focus on weight loss? Why did I focus on being a motivational speaker? It's because my why is I want to motivate people. I want to see people grow and to become their best selves, right? And so we must always remember why we got into this in the first place. If you are a teacher, if you are a minister, if you are a servant, whatever your quote unquote title is, don't forget your why. Like, don't be like the church in Revelation that has lost their first love, right? Where we did all of these great and wonderful things, but none of it was to the glory and the honor of God. It was just so that our names could be great and so that people can, tell the world how wonderful we are, right? Because, in today's society, man, likes, shares, Facebook reels, stars, the little bit of money that we get for content, that can really, really play tricks on us. That dopamine is a killer. Doing stuff just for likes, regardless of what your character says, regardless if it goes outside of what you believe, that dopamine hit is so contagious. And so if our hearts aren't right, then we'll find ourselves doing things that we look up one day and be like, man, I can't believe I did that. Right. So listen, that's all I wanted to say tonight. I want to thank y'all so much for listening to today's episode. Please be sure to subscribe to this podcast. It's available everywhere where they may be found. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere. Or if you're watching this right now on YouTube podcast as well. So thank you so much. Share this with your family and friends. Let them know how this has blessed you. And until next week, y'all know what I say. Have a great one, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Living from Sunday to Sunday podcast. All episodes are available everywhere where podcasts can be found. Make sure that you like the show, download, and subscribe so you won't miss out on any of the future episodes. Remember, real change happens between Sundays. Talk to you soon.